long-haired freaky people need not apply. So I took my head under my hand.
Tesla has released their new effort, Simplicity, and it's headed for a top 25 debut on the Billboard 200 chart this week. The group was a staple on rock radio in the late 80s and early 90s, bringing a more straight-ahead hard rock sound to some of the more watered-down hair metal of the period. Their acoustic version of Signs capped off a run that featured hits Love Song, Little Susie, and What You Give, which all charted on the Billboard Hot 100. The band's first offering from the just-released album is the single So Divine, and it's reminiscent of the group's tune Song and Emotion from their 1991 release, Psychotic Supper, in that it was inspired by Def Leppard. Frank Hannon, Jeff Keith, and Brian Wheat talked about the track.
Well, the guitar riff was inspired by Def Leppard, obviously. If you hear the signature guitar riff, that's definitely influenced by Steve Clark, who was also a very so divine person, you know, a guy who was really super cool. That guitar riff's been floating around with me for a long time. But then when we got together in the studio, J.K. was singing these lyrics, you know, you're a star that never fades. And that kind of triggered the idea about one of our friends that we lost, and we just put it together about that, right?
About losing, you know, how many people have we lost throughout the years that leave us too soon, and you know, and then the song kind of became very spiritual. And the second verse, the way I see it, is if people want to, because they can perceive it however they want, they can perceive it as you know, somewhat of a rough idea of what Jesus Christ might have had to deal with.
We asked them, what was the biggest challenge in getting the new album, Simplicity, finished?
We got some pre-production in, which we hadn't got for quite some time, and we had Tom Zutaut co-producing, who was really great at bringing out that natural feel, you know. When we go, yeah, it's good enough, he'd go, no, man, we need a little bit more or something, and beat him up pretty bad, but he did great, man. Hey, we couldn't have done this record without him.
Yeah, Tom Zutaut's got some great ears, and you know, he was generous enough to let us use his house for a couple weeks, which was in a very remote location in Virginia with no distractions, no internet. And you know, basically once we planned the schedule and set a deadline for ourselves, we just hyper-focused on what we were going to do with our goal. We went there with the goal of writing songs and immediately came home with the goal of recording them, and we just hyper-focused on it and got it done.
Tesla was formed back in 1981, and they were helped out initially by Metallica's current manager, Cliff Bernstein.
I think Cliff Bernstein had a better vision of what he wanted to do with us. And Tom Zutaut, they knew that we were a good band, but we were so young and kind of green that we didn't know anything, really.
Yeah, you don't. When you're that young, man, you don't sit there and go, we're going to be successful. You just put your heart and soul into it and hope for the best.
Tesla is on tour in support of the new album with their next show in New York City on Wednesday, June 18th. Dates are currently booked through September 20th in Las Vegas, Nevada.